lights, cameras, action. Now let's engage in the dialogue. Let me browse through your mind like a catalog. Conscious metaphysics, allow me to break down the specifics. Educate, motivate. If you don't feel free, you can liberate. An LLC is what I'm building, the #1 podcast in the building. So let me slide on up in the Bentley truck in my Versace shirts. They can't get enough of this deep conversation, expansion, elevation. I'll send you a link you can tap in. It ain't quite what I used to do back then. Now I get it on the front and the back end. Multiple money streams keep coming in. Enlighten, empower, evolve. Enlighten, empower, evolve.
Greetings, everyone. I'm Luke Bryan Smith, and welcome to Enlightened, Empowered, Evolved. I believe everyone's doing well and everything is unfolding absolutely perfectly, even if you don't see it at first. I'm excited yet again because I have an extraordinary guest on today that is an astrologer, a paradigm shifter, as well as a podcast host and much more. Her name is Jude Hotep. How are you doing today, Jude?
I'm doing really wonderful. I love your intro too. This is what we're doing, right, in humanity right now, evolving and trying to stand up into our empowered selves.
Right. Yeah, so I just want to just say, and I always say this, but I really do mean it, is I believe that time is one of our most precious assets. And for you to spend even a moment in history of your time here with me, I just want to just extend my sincerest gratitude to you.
I appreciate that. It's really lovely. I agree. Time is so precious, and how we spend it. I think it's actually an important conversation because so many of us are in that eat, work, entertainment, sleep cycle that we're sold as life.
Absolutely. Wow, you're getting deep already. So yeah, let's just get right into it. So let's talk about you're an astrologer, a goddess astrologer. Could you give us a little insight of the audacious feminine entrepreneurs? I mean, break that down a little bit.
Yeah, I call myself the Goddess Astrologer because I'm an expert in the divine feminine awakening journey where women have really awakened all over the planet. Everyone is in a different evolutionary condition. I can get into that if you're interested.
Yes.
But so it depends. Spiritual awakening might not mean someone that's questioning the status quo doesn't mean they're necessarily spiritually awakened. I always had that question, like, why are people like definitely questioning the matrix, the third dimensional kind of life, but yet they don't really seem spiritually awakened? And I was like, oh, it's evolutionary conditions. So as an evolutionary astrologer, which is what I am, we look at evolutionary conditions. So about 70% of humanity is in the status quo or consensus evolutionary condition, meaning that you don't have a soul, you are a soul, you came in, you have a body. And so looking at it from this perspective of soul, then we can kind of assess like evolutionary condition. That's why some people just aren't really connected to soul, to something higher beyond. It's either really kind of going along with what's sold to us by government or school or one of the industrial complexes, and then there's about 28% of the population or so that's in an individuated state. That word coming from Carl Jung, where it's we question things and we think for ourselves. But there's stages, all of these evolutionary conditions, and then there's the spiritual evolutionary condition. So you're talking about like a Gandhi or like a Joan of Arc is in the spiritual state of evolutionary conditions, like maybe 3% or less of the human population. And then there's the evolutionary condition of de-evolved or newly evolved into human form from another form. So kind of a not really a great sense of awareness, self-awareness, not really, just barely aware of time and space. And about 2% of the population. And so we look at that and it explains a lot. I feel like that can really help people understand why we're so different.
Absolutely. I totally grasp everything that you're saying, and doesn't, and that's why I'm so thankful that what you're speaking of right now, it doesn't sound like gibberish to me. Like I've been on my transformational awakening for a few years now, since 2016, and now I hear you know, the terms that you're using and the breakdowns of people that are, you know, basically sheep to those that are questioning and finding out and seeking it all sounds normal to me now. So now
Yeah.
that I'm able to observe and you know, and be aware of what you're speaking about,
Yeah.
that's amazing.
Yeah, I think, everything in the end, right, is just what helps. Like, I think wisdom is whatever works.
Right,
And
right,
so, wisdom in one moment's not the same as wisdom in another moment, and it's not the same to one person as another. But it's definitely a lens that we can put on, kind of like the ophthalmologist put on lenses, take them off. And so I love looking through that lens and offering people that, because I think it helps explain people's behaviors so much. And then you kind of asked about, like why I call myself the Goddess Astrologer and working kind of with audacious female entrepreneurs. There's the 100,000 plus years of human evolution, the goddess culture times,
right.
where we had equality between men and women. Fear was nearly eradicated. We didn't have war. That's where all of our modern technology comes from. Architecture, indoor plumbing, paved roads, all comes from the Paleolithic and Neolithic times. And so again, that's kind of why I call myself the Goddess Astrologer, because I really hearken that if we look at, I don't know if you've heard about the nodes. So the nodes of the moon, astrologers talk about the nodes all the time, and they're talking about the nodes of the moon, these two calculated points of the moon, the north node and the south node. Kind of, we can simplify it to think of the north node as where we want to go and evolve into our evolutionary intent. And the south node is our past lives and where we're really conditioned and predisposed to repeat old patterns and where we feel safe. And so all the planets also have nodes, and this isn't so as commonly known. And Pluto's south node is Capricorn, the patriarchy or the dominator culture way. And the north node is Cancer. And so that's that matrilineal or those goddess culture times where men and women lived in harmony and equality. It wasn't matriarchy where women dominated, it was equality between the biological sexes. And so we're kind of retrieving, Pluto is saying we're retrieving all of that old wisdom of the interconnectedness of all of life with the cosmos to move forward into a completely new era of the Aquarius era.
Yes, yes, and how exciting that is. Or yeah, from my perception it is. But that is absolutely amazing. Thank you for sharing that and the intricate details, you know, amazing percentages and all that. I mean, wow. Um, Talk to us a little bit about your paradigm shifter. Can you elaborate a bit on that?
Yeah, definitely. Before I do though, I gotta ask, are you into astrology?
To who?
Are you into astrology?
Astrology. You know, I really can't say that I'm into it, but it does pique my interest. I just haven't really, you know, when I do hear someone talking about it and breaking down things about it, I really resonate, but I haven't like per se studied astrology myself.
Delved in, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
and the signs and things like that. But then I read things even in regards to like my own sign and birth date and things like that. And I'm like, wow, there is something going on here.
Yeah, with my work, I really try to help people retrieve the power of astrology for themselves, because really it should be taught in school
Right.
from young on
If
up.
I might elaborate, yes, I agree because astrology dates back a long time. I really don't want to say the amount of
Ethiopia.
years, but yes, but it dates back a long time. And when you hear about even just a lot of scholars and philosophers from the past, they were astrologers as well. You know,
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people will say like 7,000 before Common Era, but actually goes back to as early as like some of our original times on this planet, and there's
right?
cave drawings in Ethiopia, and
No,
so it's
I get
yeah,
it. Yeah,
so it's
a lot of
so
the pyramids. I wouldn't say a lot. I'd say probably all of them are like strategically place due to the stars and everything and celestial. And I know that much,
Yeah,
they knew
absolutely.
what they were doing.
And yeah, and like people don't understand what the pyramids were. They were really energy centers of
Right.
places of healing and of different kinds of energy sources that aren't so damaging to our body and our earth. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I'm familiar with a lot of the concepts, but yeah, I should look further. But that is amazing. And I encourage anyone that's listening or watching to reach out to Jude to get some
I
clarity
think
in
it's so
regards to this.
powerful. Yeah, I really try to help people own it for themselves so that they don't necessarily need me, but also working with an astrologer, it's kind of like we do math every day, but if you want some deeper stuff, you have to go to the calculus, person. But but I work
The
to help.
mathematician.
Yeah, the mathematician, exactly. And I work, but I help people to understand the 12 signs are actually these swaths of life. They're areas of life to master. Like that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to master these areas of life. So we have an evolutionary intent. So our Pluto in our chart is where our soul is really predispositioned to continue to repeat those patterns. And then the polarity point of Pluto, the opposite sign, is our intent. It's where we wanted to go and evolve. So for example, I'm a Pluto Libra generation. It's a generation of people. And depending on when you're born, that set of years, everyone will have Pluto and Libra. And so my evolutionary intent is Aries, to be self-directed instead of doing the Libra codependency,
Right.
shadow Libra, which is, all of the being fair to everyone else except ourselves, not being dependent on other people, not having a separate identity. So Aries is all about this having an identity of our own. So I guess when I talk about paradigm shifting, it's really about shattering, the planets, the 10 planets are what provokes us. Like a body at rest will stay at rest, a body in motion will stay at motion. And so it's like
Right.
the planets changing and hitting different aspects in the sky is what provokes us to change. So whether it's external provocation, like an earthquake or a tsunami or a death in the family or an illness or and so on, getting fired, etc., or whether it's internal provocation of we just can't stand it anymore, or we go into some sort of depression, which is a Saturn thing, which is about needing to restructure Saturn, our world, differently. So we go into a depression, and in some cultures they have something called brooding, where they didn't look down on depression as something wrong or bad or some things went wrong. They understood that it's meaning that we're facing a need to change, but it's coming from
Right.
within instead of without. And so
Right.
the
Right.
planets are these forces acting upon us to get us to grow and evolve.
Yes, and that's one thing that I have done too, a little bit of had a little bit of exposure to, is how the planets, and their energy fields affect us. So
Mhm.
yes, wow,
Yeah.
that's amazing that you have connected and researched and learned about how this works. That's amazing. Wow.
It's, I mean, it's the map that we have. It's really powerful. I mean, astrology was used by kings to wage war and get laid, and we can reclaim the power of it to actually live our lives and understand what the hell we're doing here and what the hell we're doing at any given moment. With the eclipse, I don't know when this will air, but at the time that we're recording, we're only days away from the May 5th, 2023 Scorpio lunar eclipse. And eclipses are massive times of change, beheadings, deaths, endings, big shifts. We're changing energies. And so literally at this time, new world leaders are switching out. People have been fired that are prominent in the news. There's been massive shifts. Everyone I know is having like deaths in their family or being fired, or roommates are moving, people are moving, changing states, etc. So it's
It
big.
makes a lot of sense. There's something going on with that Budweiser Anheuser-Busch that's shaking up and shifting with that too. I mean, I
Oh,
don't know if
really?
yeah,
I
yeah.
haven't heard about it. Yeah, tell me
Oh,
about that.
oh yeah. No, it's the brand Bud Light, the marketing team for Budweiser uh had a transgender woman sponsor that, and it's caused a lot of people to
Okay.
get away from the brand now. I mean, it's causing a lot of controversy. So
There's
yeah,
some interesting things going on with that, because then there's been a lot of transgender news around
right.
people that some individuals that are transgender going into kindergarteners and then sexualizing children. And so there's a lot
Right.
of things going on
Right.
with it. And I think in a way, it's being politicized. I think it's trying to put
Oh
down
yeah.
people and use people,
Right.
but also there are some things that are, there's always shadow everywhere. So there's always
Right.
shadow and light within everything.
Right.
So
You have an understanding. I can tell you have a clear understanding of how, and I know this program isn't about that, but we can touch on it. You have a clear understanding of how media and things like that are used to distract and to control, and you get it. You know what's
absolutely.
going on,
Optics.
and
Yeah.
I
And
do
that's
too.
Libra. Yeah.
Yeah, and I do too. I believe me, I know. There's certain things that I stay away from, and that's probably why you didn't hear about that. The only reason why I knew about that is because I actually work for that company, Anheuser-Busch, and it's impacted us. So yeah,
Interesting.
and I
Okay.
that's what happened. We've lost a lot of volume. So yeah, and it was because of that. And I'm like, you know, in my opinion, I'm like, okay, so whoever uh likes, if just because somebody publicly liked this beer, now you don't like it anymore because they're this, okay.
But
But
it's
at the
interesting.
same time, it just shows me again how easily uh people are swayed, like as a whole. All you got to do is do this, push this button, and then, oh, everybody's over here, everybody's over there, and I'm just watching. I'm just, oh, I used to be in that group that was swayed like that
Yeah.
at
And
one point.
And
Yes.
this is exactly the astrology in motion. This is literally like showcasing astrology right there, so people can kind of connect the dots together, that that's the consensus evolutionary condition at play. That the
Right.
consensus that 70% of most of humanity doesn't question things. Like you said, they're just swayed
Right.
over here, swayed over there.
Yeah. They just go with what they're told or what they're programmed. And this is the thing, since we're on that subject, a lot of the powers that be, the people, they know this. So they use it to their advantage. They already know it. It's just not coincidental. They just, okay, we're just running this commercial. No, they studied these things, that what you're talking about. And that's how they know how to get people to be divided. They know how to get people to act this way, that way. They know it. They already know it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they're
Millions.
privy to the information of how things work because it's been used for thousands of years.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think people understand that it's from Shakespeare back in the day, putting
Right.
out theater. Today it's
Right.
TV and media and every single source you can possibly think of, right? But back then it was, theater was how they
Right.
disseminated what they wanted the general population to believe and think and to act out. And so then we would, right? And so
Right.
yeah. And so people, the last 3 years, the mass hypnosis and the different things going on, it's like, gosh, we got to think for ourselves. We have to ask questions. We have to ask why and do that greater provocation. And the more of us awakened, I believe, are helping to uplift, encourage, and inspire others into their
Right.
own autonomy, which I then think provokes those asking the questions and maybe moving out of that consensus state, more people into the individuated state.
Yes, I like the way that you articulated that. Yes. And yes, we the few can help to start melting the ice, if you so to speak.
Yeah.
Yes. But like you said, you have mass hypnosis. I like that.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
that sews it up, with the media and news, and where, they put what they want you, keep your energy where they want you to keep it, and for a reason. Um,
Mhm.
and
Project Fear, just always
oh
pushing.
yeah, that's right. Keep you at this
People.
state and distracted down here while this is going on up here. So
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. And people got to realize that there's and I think personally that we're in the time of the great healing. I think there's
Right.
a bloom on the internet. If you look out there, I think people are waking up from narcissistic abuse. I think
Right.
people are waking up to PTSD, not being just relegated to having been in the military, but that everyone is suffering from trauma of some sort, from
Of
being
some
in,
sort.
you know,
Right. Right.
the
Speak.
suppression of the last 5,000 years.
Right.
Yeah. And then most people have had abusers or been abused or relationships or whatever it has been. And so there's healing techniques just blooming on the internet. There's somatics everywhere. People are learning how to understand when their nervous system is dysregulated and some quick, easy techniques to regulate, which is something I teach in my work. But it's like so powerful, because how do we not get swayed by fear and
Right. Right.
easily pushed into corners and into places that the people pulling strings want the general population to move into these directions. And so we must get control of our fear and understand also the things that make us feel safe or comfortable or that are familiar. That's moving back into the past. That's not evolution.
Right.
Evolution is moving into the unknown, which feels scary because we don't know
Right.
it. But we have to be willing to really look at what makes us feel safe and comfortable. And is it
Right.
devolving us or evolving us?
No, it's true, because that energy of fear causes a lot of destruction. Because if you think about it, when you keep people in fear, what happens? No one trusts anyone. Everybody judges everyone else. Just a lot of things happen out of that fear.
Absolutely.
Instead
That's
of
such an amazing
instead of
point.
feeling comfortable in love and things of that nature. So it's to, someone, I'm not going to get into it. It's someone, not just one, but benefit to keep us that way, in that fear state.
Absolutely. And what you said about not being in the love, it's too scary to be vulnerable, which is like to be in
Right.
your heart. There's a measure of being vulnerable, and what you're saying, that fear doesn't allow us to go into the heart, puts us too much in our mind and ego, and the ego just wants to fight to the death, to be
Right.
right. And yeah,
Exactly.
to
When you fear,
belong
when
also.
you fear something, a lot of times, you don't understand. You fear it. You want to destroy it. You want to label it. Um,
Mm,
just like even the way that I believe now, even to members of my own family, they want to put a label on, um, you know, the way I'm speaking and the things that I explain now as something sinister or evil, and I'm
mm.
like, no, um, I I feel at peace and with myself and connecting with my power, that the universe, that God is flowing through me. And it's just even things like that. I'm like, just because it's not, and I'm not criticizing anyone, but just because it's not familiar to them in their narrative of, whatever religious beliefs that they have or whatever. So,
And the sad thing about
and
religion
that's
is,
fear. That's fear. They're fearing what they don't know. It's unknown to them. But go ahead.
right, exactly. I mean, and it's a tough situation to be in with people you love, where you can't
Right,
poke any light through their veil of not seeing
right,
clearly. And
right,
yet also it's kind of it's detrimental relationship in a way, because it's not uplifting you, and it's always putting you down for being your authentic true self.
right. Or judged or looked at sideways, like, what's going on with him? And it's like, wait a minute, I'm everything that and it's like, I don't like to feel that I'm always having to justify and explain myself just
Yeah.
for reaching towards my higher self. And just, but
And it's
yeah,
exhausting.
it puts a strain on the relationships when that happens, because like you said, it's the relationship is not conducive to your growth, to your peace. And you also have to get to the point where people have to wake up or not wake up on their own. All you can do is, live and let them see, and observe. And, I would even ask the question sometimes, hey, don't you see that I'm at more peace than I've ever been? I'm not constantly talking about what the things I don't like. I'm not constantly focused on judging and putting down people. I don't have fear-based conversations. I'm not talking about the destruction that's going on on the media and the news all the time. I mean, but that's normal to a lot of people. So when you break out of that, then again, fear kicks in that way, because it's like, no, wait a minute, what are you doing? I don't understand,
Yeah, really.
this is what we do. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's such a massive point that I don't think a lot of people realize, the gen population, right? The consensus population, that we've been habituated to dysfunction, psychological dysfunction.
Right.
We've been habituated to abuse being normalized for us, narcissistic abuse particularly being normalized for us. I talk a lot on my platform about that the people that are at the helm, that have been at the helm of the patriarchy, which is just a word for like the dominator model of control, authoritarian. It's not,
Right.
it's not men bashing. I just want to be clear, because that word can
No,
be true.
no, I got it.
It's horrible. I know you get it, but it's horrible for,
Yes.
patriarchy is horrible for men or women alike, etc. Any gender identity, but it's really the narcissists, the psychopaths, and sociopaths that have been at the helm of that for all these 5,000 years. And I think this is such, we talk about paradigm shifting. I think this is a great paradigm shift for people to realize that we've been habituated to think that that was normal. Either our maladaptations of trying to survive narcissistic abuse from narcissistic abusers. I mean, Trump's such an obvious example of somebody at the head of something and such an obvious narcissist. And I think that was a nice ripple effect into the collective, awakening people to narcissists.
Right.
So much, but also like the sociopathy, to not have emotions. Emotions are soul. Pluto is Scorpio, is soul. And so it's the language of our soul. And it's also the bridge between our ego, personality, and soul. So it's like, to be a sociopath, like, men are told to not feel emotions, be this, this John Wayne character or something. And
Right.
women can have more, but still you're not supposed to cry at work. You're not supposed to show emotions in all these different settings. You're supposed to be stoic. So
And that's therapeutic. Actually, we're keeping ourselves from healing by holding things in.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
that's why I think, it's changing. This is the time of the great healing. I think people are waking up and realizing that, no, we need to feel emotions, and emotions are actually our power. Because what I work with people, I'm a master soul coach. I'm a professional astrologer. And then I combine the two in one-to-one coaching that I do with clients. And then I also do individual astrology readings too. But what I do is I help people to work with their emotions, to heal old trauma. I just had a client end her 6 months with me, and she healed trauma that 10 years of therapy did not help her heal. And this is a common statement amongst my clients, and it's through feeling and identifying emotions and being able to learn how to release them. I'll ask a lot of people, like, how do you deal with your emotions? And they'll be like, well, I dance and I move and I journal, I do these things. But it's like, no, I have real techniques that work. In 5 minutes, I can help you release an emotion like guilt, and how, like, since emotions drive all of our behavior, then if we're behaving from guilt versus behaving from confidence and inspiration, really different results we're going to get. And so I think understanding narcissistic abuse and like what you're talking about healing and realizing that that's who's been at the helm of the old paradigm for all this time. It's been narcissists, psychopaths, and sociopaths. And you talked about people making you out to be evil. The definition of evil is malicious intent to harm. Like, we need to retrieve that word from fairy tales and realize what it actually means. And there's people that are really doing that and really want humanity to be controlled.
Absolutely.
And we need to wake up from it. And we have to, like, what I really am trying to help people understand is that we have that piece, but we also have the rest of the 80% of humanity, because that's maybe about 10-20% of humanity. The rest of the 80% of humanity is either like having survival responses and maladaptations to all that abuse for all these years. Jerry Springer just died, which I find fascinating because I use him as an example all this time, we were habituated to dysfunction, like thinking that was cool or that was good.
Right.
Reality TV, drama.
Dysfunction. Yeah. To function in dysfunction.
Right. Like that quote that it's like no measure of good health to be well adjusted to a sick society. It's like, hello, we have to wake up from this. And so either people are like in that survival response of just trying to placate people, trying to be good, trying to get along, don't make waves. They don't own their voice. They don't say their no or yes because they're trying to be polite, socially belong, all these things. And that's the Libra South Node that we're going into this summer for 18 months, we're going to be having this in our face hardcore, not that it's not already. And then, there's the other side of it where other people have been kind of taught to behave the same way as the narcissists and the other abusers, even though they're not. But they've been taught, like, that's what I got to do to survive. That's what I got to do to climb the ladder. That's what I got to do to get ahead. And so I feel like we have this going on in society.
Yep. That's what we got to do to function in this society. That's what the popular belief is. Wow. Thank you so much for sharing all that, Jude. So much information you have. And what resonates with me is the fact that you can assist people in getting dissipating traumas, because that's a very important thing, because a lot of the things that reoccur in our lives are the trauma is at the root cause of that. And so if you're able to find a way to, or someone that can help you deal with that, or possibly get rid of it or dissipate it, or however it is, or be able to function through it, or whatever, that's an amazing thing to do. So I
think
appreciate
there's
that.
a lot of people running businesses with trauma, and then there's all these coaches out there saying that you just have to do massive action, you just have to do these things in business to succeed, and they're succeeding. And so I think it confuses a lot of people when it's like, you're actually trying to be an entrepreneur while having trauma. And I help different feminine soulpreneurs, or I help soulpreneurs, people who are really doing businesses from soul. And I work with women predominantly. I have some men that come to me, and it's wonderful to work with men as well. But I really have real techniques that help to heal trauma, whether it's childhood abuse, whether it's PTSD, I work with that a lot, or whether it's past life karmic trauma that comes through, which is very, if we're trying to evolve, it comes through to be resolved in this life, to be healed. And I really believe that we can actually heal, and heal completely. Like, I think forgiveness is actually moot if you just heal. I don't, like, people try to push forgiveness, but I don't really believe in it, because I think it's a non-issue if you just heal all the way.
Right.
Like when I feel healed.
Absolutely. When you heal, that doesn't even come into play. I get it. I totally resonate with what you're saying. Amazing. And I would invite you to reach out to me in my message after this segment, because I might have a couple of clients for you.
All
yes, right. that are looking to get through some over some traumas. So yes.
Yeah, it's very rewarding to help people realize their empowerment within it, but also, heal it completely. It is a journey to heal it, but to realize empowerment with actually there's real answers and there's real techniques that work. Because see, I was like I just, as a kid, I just had this knowing that if I could just heal, I could have the life I really wanted. And I just had this kind of concept. And I've been questioning that recently, because I never went back to 8 years old to question it since recently. And I've been like, is this still hold true? Does this seem accurate? Is this kind of something I could apply ubiquitously to more people? Or is this just my journey? And I've been playing around with it. And I'm really getting a lot of people finding that they corroborate this for their own journey too. Because I was this 8-year-old kid on the kitchen stool in my mom's kitchen saying, with the psychology book, saying, can we please try to communicate better and try to maybe try this technique in this book so that we can get along better. And, my mom's looking at me like I'm an alien. Come to find out she's a complete narcissist. I didn't find that out until years later. And then I, ended that relationship completely. Nothing to do with, I just have zero tolerance policy for narcissists or abusers of any type. But from here, she bamboozled me, because I didn't know she was a narcissist. And the covert ones are really challenging to deal with, because they're so abusive, but they might do some nice things.
Right.
My whole life.
Yes, to throw you off. Yeah. And confuse you. Yeah. And that especially when that, I can resonate with what you're saying, because especially when that happens to you as a child, that's confusing, That is, yeah. This nice thing is done, but then this thing to abuse you is done at the same time, and you're like, okay, your definition of love and caring is very skewed after that. When you break out of that and get a chance to have a vantage point to look at that and say that was not love.
Yeah, I didn't have love as a kid. I had like unlove is what I call it. Like literally I just had unlove. It was later when I went through a process from my friend. She does past life work and theta energetic healing. It's a really powerful technique. And she connected to me with like my soul parents and my soul family. And it was just this powerful experience to go through of feeling love. And it was so contrasted with the unlove that I grew up with that it was like, wow, I didn't even know what I was missing because I had never experienced it. It was just so insane. And yeah, I think the covert narcissism is hard for people because there's the malicious narcissists who are doing it on purpose. And then there's the narcissists that are covert because they don't maybe know they're a narcissist themselves, and so they
Right.
have there's this self-identity of like good mom or good husband or great sister or whatever it is, and meanwhile they're gaslighting and abusive, and it's horrible abuse, but like you said, it's very confusing to people.
Yes, yes. Well, we're down to about 2 minutes remaining. So before we conclude this segment, how can people find you?
Yeah, right now I have a Divine Feminine Uprising astrology mini course that you can access for free on my website, thegoddessastrologer.com. And also you can go there and book a reading. I'm doing astrological research right now. So I have a pick your price astrology reading. My normal astrology readings are $297, and people can actually get an astrology reading with me from anywhere from $55 to $297. So they can pick their price because I want people that legitimately don't have the money to be able to get a reading and work with their own stars and their own evolution.
Wow, amazing. Thank you, Jude, for coming on the show and for sharing with me and for enlightening us all. Appreciate your energy, appreciate your insight and your perspectives. And thank you, everyone, for watching. Be sure to hit that like button, that subscribe button on whatever streaming service or platform that you're viewing and or listening to this on. And just appreciate everyone very much and send you love and appreciation and just abundance in all areas of your life. Thank you very much. See you soon. Enlightened, Empowered, Evolved.